Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are across the great wide world of ours. I want to continue this discussion concerning water, especially the biggest issue to me, and it's a pet peeve of mine, is drinking from plastic bottles. 56% of the Americans drink from plastic bottles. I believe most of this information comes from 2019, and about 30 from a survey, and 33% uh, drink from a plastic bottle water on a daily basis. So the issue that concerns me is the issue of the plastic, and I've talked about this in my last video. That the usage of plastic from an economic standpoint for the companies, or it's easy to freight, it's easy to ship. There's no, the costs are cheaper, and they can pass on that uh, cost, uh, cheaper cost onto the consumer. But the environmental consequences of the plastic bottle, because it takes a while. Number one, it takes a while to biodegrade, and number two, its use of using uh, fossil fuels, namely oil, and using natural gas to produce plastic bottles. Now, uh, there are certain organizations that come up with the usage of plastic bottles, recyclable plastic bottles, and make other items out of it. In the case of boys, I talked about this in a couple previous discussions. Is a lot of playgrounds in the 1890s, 18, the 1980s, 1990s were taking shredded tires because they were, again, rubber tires are very hard to biodegrade. And trust me, if you go to some of the older landfills that were created in the 40s, 50s, and 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, I'm sure there's a lot of uh, rubber that were disposed in a landfill. Uh, and the consequences of that is that the it doesn't biodegrade. In the same way with plastics, that it takes a long time to biodegrade. And my solution has been that with plastic bottles, and though people may not necessarily like my rationale behind it, that we have to come up with alternative and then go back to glass. Because the fact of the matter is, uh, people will take glass as well, and probably will start using that and throwing that away, and that becomes another issue because that's necessarily doesn't biodegrade either. So, but the issue to me is that the plastic is now getting into the oceans, into the major waterways. You can watch any or when for instance, everybody's getting snow on the east of the Mississippi. Trust me, when the waters start to recede or start to rise because of all the snow melt and recede, chances are, if you would explore the area, you're going to find some type of plastic bottles within a certain amount of area. And like I said, because this comes downhill, or not necessarily, but comes down into the water. And like I said, my big issue is that uh, this is another issue where we should look at wastewater and converting wastewater into some form of drinkable water. But the issue becomes we don't have the technology to do that yet. But there again, if we come up with a solution, develop a pipeline that we can filter the water and come up with extremely large uh, uh, pipeline of this, we can feed the Colorado and get the dams back up to their normal level again, which would help with the drinking, because I've talked about this in a previous video. Your major cities like Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Phoenix count on the Colorado River for their water supplies, and with agriculture, that becomes a problem too. And then with the dams itself, remember most of the dams were created by the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, but that goes to another of my arguments about the Interior Department of the BLM. Lately, like I said, the Interior Secretary, Burgess wants to circle the emphasis on, came up with this thing about coal, or causing coaly, and then oil. And I don't think oil and coal are economically friendly. And if I've said this previous, especially when we're into fracking oil, you have to shoot water to break the shell up to get to that oil. If that water comes up and it pollutes, it can pollute a stream, or pollute a certain part of a stream or a waterway, then we're in a hurt for any type of damage that may occur to a stream or to a waterway. For instance, if this gets into the water, groundwater, which is located in the plains, upper Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, etc. Then if part of that gets polluted, then we have an additional issue, because then if we pollute the groundwater, then it's not deemed, it may still be deemed for agriculture, but it may not be deemed for drinkable water. The issue that became with XL pipeline, and I've got a good video, PowerPoint on the XL pipeline, about how that the Native Americans, and everything to the Native Americans, water is life, and it's always been that their thesis, or their view that water is life, and the fact that the in North Dakota and South Dakota, the native tribes up there did not want the pipeline because they were concerned about ceremonial with their drinking water. But that's another video for another day, because, like I said, I'm a big believer that 51% of the native reservations have lacked the plumbing and the infrastructure to have drinkable, cleanable water. Coincide with the fact that when I did my PhD thesis, the issue became the COVID, and the fact that the Native Americans had a bigger impact on death and sickness, because they had they didn't have the resources to wash their hand on a daily basis, because of the fact they lacked the plumbing and the infrastructure to be able to wash your hands, to bathe, etc. So this in itself becomes another issue, which I believe that the issue on the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, is outdated and really is not really helped the Native American situation. And that's one thing that I've been professing or pontificating on, is the fact that we need a different system for the Native Americans as well as the BLM, because of the fact of the matter is the issue of going back to coal and oil is not, and like I said, we reached our peak in oil in 1972. So really, though we have not reached our peak yet in unconventional oil, which is fracking oil, the issue becomes we're putting ourselves in a very precarious situation if we do have a major spill, because then we have to move large parts of the population, especially in if we get a spill, say for instance on the Colorado River, and we cannot use Colorado River anymore for drinking water, that may displace people in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and the city of Phoenix. So anyway, these are some food for thoughts. I don't want to pontificate any more on that, but the issue for me is the fact that go full circle is the plastic issue, and that we should come up with alternatives on plastic and spend, and I'm a big person believing in capitalism in the sense that we can do research and development and offer incentives for companies to come up with alternative plastic or a plastic that can be biodegraded, like if it gets sun and can be biodegraded, that industry can put it out, like in southern southern Arizona or southern New Mexico, and that becomes, biodegrades. Anyway, please like and subscribe to my channel. Please donate to my worthy cause of my nonprofit organization, which is North American Safe and Clean Water. Feel free to reach out to me at northamericansafe at yahoo.com. That will be described in the at below with the bottom. Anyway, folks, have a great day and talk to you real soon.